Welcome to the Brand Forum, everybody. I'm Jeremy Bloom with Josh Palau. Hi, Josh.
How are you?
Doing great. I'm doing great. How are you?
Good.
We'll take a good. We'll take a
Yeah,
good.
I'll take a good.
You know what? You're wearing Saturday or Nowhere. It's another Saturday. New York or Nowhere. They haven't reached back out to us.
Still nothing.
No.
Lisa, I wear this brand from, even though nobody knows who you are right now because we haven't let you introduce yourself. I'm obsessed with this brand, New York or Nowhere. I've got a bunch of their gear, and I'm trying to become a mini influencer and hope that maybe they'll send me a sticker. And I've still got nothing. So
okay, maybe I can help boost that for you.
Maybe we will. Yeah, actually, I'm thinking of a story you can tell. Actually, where maybe you can help me.
You will, Lisa. So we're really excited about our next guest, Lisa Perez. We had just met each other right before this and hit it off immediately. The fact that you've got 3 kids, 2 dogs, a working husband, several acres, and had a shipment of patio furniture dropped off about 3 minutes before this podcast. You've got, and congrats on the 8th grade graduation. You've got a lot on your plate. Why don't you, and there was a long pause of you are going to do something different here. Instead of me going and reading your bio, you're going to tell us who you are. We know that you're a VP at Bayer. We know that you've been at Bayer for about 20 years. We know that you're a marketing media machine, and we know that you are extremely well connected within our space. But what our audience doesn't know is how you got to be who you are. So without further ado, Lisa Perez, please go ahead.
Oh my goodness. Can I bring you everywhere with me? That was fantastic.
Sure.
And can you come over and build the patio furniture? That would be also
I'm
fantastic.
horrible with that, but I'm really good at delegation. So I can bring some other people with me, and then we'll work as a team and have a nice cohesion. So yes.
Love it. So I'll give you like the fast version of who I am, aside from all the awesome stuff. My current role is general manager, vice president of marketing at Bayer, where I have 2 awesome categories where I lead the nutritionals businesses. So wonderful brands like One A Day and Flintstones. And then I have our pain cardio derm business with jewels like Aleve and Midol, to name a few. So, that's where I am now. I started my career at a defunct company. I don't even think it exists. Airborne Express. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay.
Wow. I remember Airborne Express. Yeah.
Yeah. Someone's got to start. You got to start somewhere. I was selling, like shipping systems to mailrooms in Newark. It was like a DOS-based printer, like how to put labels on things. So everybody, you can make it. So that's where I started at Airborne Express. Doesn't exist. I worked at Maybelline for about 5 years, which was super cool. Did a lot of sales roles and merchandising in stores. And then I made my way to Bayer, to find my true love of marketing, which I've been in various marketing roles across my career, local, global brands, just doing all the fun stuff and seeing it grow and evolve, right? I think we're going to talk about probably more what's it like now, versus what was it like then when TV was the only game in town. So, happy to be here. Thanks, guys.
That was an amazing intro. And with near 20 years at one company, you have experienced a lot. And that's what you were telling us right before we jumped into the pod. Why don't you just talk about how your role has evolved and how marketing itself, just being the GM, being the VP, and seeing how many, the expansiveness of categories, the expansiveness of brands, just how your role, your team's roles, what has transpired. You don't have to give us 20 years worth, because that would be a couple.
Boring.
Yeah, that might be a series of podcasts, or a volume, so to speak. But within a couple minutes or so, just walk through some of just the overarching build that's taken place.
Yeah. Such a great question. Let's talk about the kinds of brands I've worked on first, right? Like I've had the opportunity to work on leading brands, turnaround brands, like challenger brands, sleepy brands. And that to me is a marketer's dream, because you're flexing all these different muscles, right? I mean, there's common threads across all, but when you don't have budgets and no one's paying attention, you do a major turnaround like we did on Midol, right? You go soup to nuts, you take the risks, you have all the fun, because it was a playground. What I'm doing now and the team on One A Day, that's like a crown jewel. This is a brand that's been around for 80 years, right? You have to be really, really sharp. Not to say you can't be scrappy, but the risk tolerance and let's call it maybe the rigor that goes into some of those things is a bit different. So what's evolved? How we reach consumers. Why? Because consumers are finicky as all get out, right? Like what used to be the TV show that we all watch together, although my family all watches sports. So there is a TV in our house and it is connected. I'm like a dinosaur. That's no longer the only game in town, right? Like I can, like their heads are down in phones, as is mine. I just got a text message from something that I did today. I dropped off their consumer pathway on something on Instagram. I got halfway through. I put my address in. I saw the price and I moved on. They've given me 3 text messages today. I'm already annoyed, right? But like, that's the world of marketing. Like, how cool is that we have to figure that out? How do we reach these consumers in different ways? How do we give them the messages that they think were made for them? How do we use AI or not use AI to get there? So the one thing though that has stayed constant, and I think as a marketer, it's so core, is really being solid on who your brand is. Right? Like that thing can't change. It can change how it shows up, but your brand equity, your brand positioning, being super tight on knowing what it is and then just executing the heck out of it is something that has not changed in my, dare I say, 2 decades of this gig.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. And it's funny you say that for a couple of reasons. The first is like over the evolution so I have worked for 20 years, but not at the same company. And the one thing that I would like, as everything in media evolved, the constant thing I'd say is like, oh my gosh, like as a marketer, this is great. I love this. As a consumer, can't stand this. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, like Lisa, I did work at Bayer. It's where we did the big in-housing project. Lisa, you were great with helping support that. And you're also wonderful to work with. That's just as an aside. I do have a question, but what you also said was really interesting to me because we have a mutual friend and it sticks with me is like, who said like, look, the job of the marketer, it's not easy, but it's very defined in that it's to make a meaningful connection with the consumer, right? Like that's exactly what it is. Now, in a world where it was linear and print and outdoor, like not so bad when it's this, like you said, this whole choice, like it's crazy, but the job still is the job, right? Like make that connection with the consumer. So I just thought that was interesting from your take. That with that said, the question we always go with, at some point during the podcast is this balance between performance marketing, driving bottom line, driving top line growth, and then brand building. And again, like I've had some experience in working on your brands of trying to see like, how do you toggle those? And so how do you guys think about it these days?
Yeah, I think to me, it's like, let's not have wild pendulum shifts where it's like one thing all in or the other side all in. Cause they have to work together. I'm going to sound like every marketer. It's long and short of it, but what you do to drive short term has to also build the equity, right? So if you're like hustling on some retail media, some TikTok shop, it can't have a message or something that has nothing to do with what your brand is. So really being, very intentional that whatever is going into the world, whatever your consumer is seeing is building up to that brand equity, because that's what's going to make the short term work hard. And that's what's going to make the long term be long. Like I actually think about some of the mistakes in my career, right? Where it was like, shiny toy over here, just go do it. It's not quite on equity, but it's okay, right? We're only going to do that for 6 months. You do that for 6 months, then you do something else for 6 months, and then you're losing consistency, right? You're not building your brand. So the marketer is almost like the chief consistency officer. No matter what you're touching, if it's performance marketing, if it's retail media, if it's TikTok shop, if it's TV, it's got to echo the brand strategy. So I think we're balancing, and we pendulum shift. So I think we've learned that we've got to get back in balance.
So it's kind of like taking a Flintstones or a one a day. You got to be consistent.
Oh, thank you. Yeah.
I mean, I've tried that with Midol, but it just didn't work for me. But nonetheless, we all try different things. I
think you have your period all the time, so I think that's okay.
My wife tells me that too, but it happens.
Yeah,
that was so good. Josh, what were you going to say next?
Yeah. Oh, so yeah, that's good. I'm sorry. I was just struck at a pause of you taking Midol. And
happens to the best of us, trust me.
Lisa's quick wit. So you have worked on a bunch of interesting, fun brands.
Yeah.
And so I think I have 2 questions here. The first is, what's an execution or a campaign that you're like, that was great, that worked, it may or may not have been fun in terms of the message, but what's one that you worked on, you're like, wow, that was really good. And then actually, no, go with that one, because I think my next question is going to require a little more of a build up.
Okay. So like a campaign that I worked on?
Yeah. Campaign or brand, either one.
Guys. So bear with me, but it was so cool. I work on One a Day now. I worked on One a Day as like an assistant brand manager. So I have like such deep love for this brand. And, we had a partnership, a strategic long-term partnership with Major League Baseball, with our One a Day men's product, right? It made a ton of sense. And at the time, the product benefit was, it had ingredients that help to support, your prostate health. We built a very robust integrated campaign with Major League Baseball. We had, Strikeout Prostate Cancer Challenge. It wasn't just like, here's our money, we'll take your logo and be on the backstop. Great. Anybody can do that. This was incredibly integrated. It leveraged their, online properties. It leveraged in-game opportunities. But again, broken record, it went back to what was core to the brand, which was really about selling its unique benefit at the time. I think the other reason why I love it is because it was the first, we like pioneered something new in the organization. It was a major, major spend. And it was a 3-year commitment, I think. Wow. So like to have a company go from not doing anything to a pretty big lean in, we had to sell that big internally, and it totally paid off. We had integrated commercials. We had, the athletes in our advertising. So that to me was probably one of the best examples of a fully integrated, activation. Like before that was a thing almost, right? Because it was probably a decade ago.
I'm ComScore's Sam Mark, and on this week's Dishing with Divas, we're serving up something fresh with Samsung Ads Senior Director of Product, Data, AI, and Measurement, Shweta Basraj. Because when it comes to ad time, brands are no longer settling for the same old leftovers. Shweta, can you tell us how brands are rethinking traditional ad time in favor of interactive formats?
Sure. In my opinion, brands are rethinking traditional ad time by shifting towards interactive formats that actively engage audiences and deliver measurable results. For example, within Samsung Ads, what we have launched last year, Game Breaks, is transforming brand engagement with gamified ad experiences. Our first game, The Six, provided ads in a trivia format, and it's boosting an impressive 98% completion rate. And now building on that success, we are launching Riplash, a visually captivating word guessing game. Along with that, we are expanding the game breaks with 3 new games and entering UK market later this year. So with customizable, design forward formats, suitable for any vertical, Game Breaks, in my opinion, is providing advertisers a turnkey solution to create memorable and immersive connections.
Before we started, Lisa, I had mentioned to you that Alexis on your team popped on the advertising forum about a month ago, and we were talking about all about creative, and we just completely geeked out. She's awesome, by the way. You know that, Josh. You know that from working with her in the past. So when it comes to just running a $1 billion portfolio and being passionate about marketing, being passionate about creative, tell us something that just is so exciting that you want to share with us when it comes to creative and something cool that you've worked on as a GM within such a big company.
Absolutely. And totally +1 on Alexis. She's great. And let me maybe round out creative to think about it beyond just like the comms, right? The creativity actually can come in how you deliver the message, where you deliver the message.
Yes.
So creativity, to me, is like core of what we do. And it inspires me every day. So I'll give you an example. It's not even like a huge one, but it was just so creative. We just launched One a Day Kids, 3 new products. They're super awesome. The only one, right now on the market that's got iron, in a gummy, which was not easy to do. And so as we bring it to market, we said, how are we going to be creative about how we get the attention of mom and dad, right? Like parents, mom of 3, dog mom of 2. I've got like a split second for you to matter. And if you're not where I am, I can't. So there was a lot of great discussion around co-viewing habits. Where do we get the shared attention of mom with her kids with a really compelling message? How about some summer blockbusters, right? The movies. You literally can't go. You've got your giant tub of popcorn. And now they've made movies so super fun to go with the kids with like Lilo and Stitch. Minecraft was like a total thing. And so Alexis actually brought this when she was sitting in the movies with her kid and says, oh my gosh, we need to do cinema. And I was like, I love that. Like you just, so anyway, I mean, the creative, and then actually the TVC spot, like the video, it wasn't just for TV, it's just video neutral spot, lends itself really well for a co-viewing habit because it's this really cute interplay between a mom and her kid, and how I think we've all experienced this, the beautiful lunchbox of all the things, and it comes back pretty much full. So that like touches on a true insight. Again, if I bring it back to creative works when it attaches itself to a true insight. Like any parent can totally empathize with the full lunchbox and being like, oh my gosh, they ate nothing but Skittles today. And put it in a movie theater where they're literally eating Skittles, right? So it makes the relevance of our product just heightened. So that's been pretty cool. That's just coming to life right now in the summer blockbusters, but that's a mix of like actual creative with creative ways to bring it to consumers.
So that helps us lead to the next question of how you think about preparing for younger consumers, the next generation of consumers, and also just the different trends and technologies that are taking shape to help build the brands both for today and tomorrow. What are you excited about within our space? What excites you?
Well, I'll start with it exhaups me a little bit.
Okay, what exhausts you?
Right?
I'll sit back. I'll lean back.
In a cool way though, one, we have to just get into it and understand what it is, right? No longer can you be like, oh, that's for the other people. It's like, I have to be an equal expert on Snapchat. And my daughter was telling me about Locket, and she keeps me current on trends. And I try not to say the words because they're always like, you're so lame. But like our job is to figure that out. So to me, that's actually exciting because I am a curious person. I'm a constant learner. So while I've got some great things that I can bring to the table, I'm learning so many things from folks in different agencies, right? Getting out there to different, events and really starting to learn and then using the technology. That's probably my weak spot. I don't lean in as much as I can as making it part of my everyday. I'm still trying to, I'm a keynote speaker next week, so I have AI helping me out a little bit, but it's not my sweet spot. But I think the exciting part is there's always a new way to go. There's always something to learn. I think the cautionary tale is how do you, especially for products that we put out in the marketplace, how do we do that in a safe environment, right? Sometimes you can attach yourself to media channels or places that don't have some of those safety parameters around of it and maybe not be happy with where your brand's showing up. So have to really balance what's new and interesting with what's also going to reinforce the trust of our brands.
That's great. And it's funny because also as I think about that, I sort of spin that forward for like, you guys work with a ton of partners. Like, how do you bring partners into the conversation? How do you integrate them into what you guys are doing?
My favorite thing to do is bring as many people in on my business challenge. Right? Like, we all come in at the table, take off whatever hat, you come in with your expertise, and we're in a shared partnership on what's the business challenge or what's the ambition we're going after. I find that when you do that, you can remove some of it. Oftentimes there could be friction with agencies and maybe they're like, hey, I do this, I do that. I'm like, I'm great that you all do that. Let me tell you what we all need to do. And be super clear on, what's the business challenge we're trying to solve. Put super high aspirations on the kind of work that we want, right? Everybody wants to work on something that's innovative and breakthrough. So I find that generally is a great way to bring in the agency partners, to kind of one goal.
Yeah. What's funny because I remember doing it at Bear, but I've done it for a while now. Like I like you, bring all the partners in, don't care. But I remember, I don't know if it was there or J&J when I set up this meeting to talk about like, here's our business challenges. And I invited Facebook, I invited Google, I invited other partners. And I remember all of my like friends / rep friends that were like, hey, like, I think you added me to the wrong meeting. And I was like, no, I want you all there.
Yeah.
Like we're all going to come there at once. You all have like, you don't have to share your secret sauce, but this idea, I just think of this idea and in the crazy world, like you were describing earlier, like how many choices you have.
Yeah.
Like it just, one, just to be very utilitarian about it. You don't have time. Like I don't have time to brief 12 different partners.
No.
And I know there will always be some guarded level of how they'll talk with one another in front of one another. But I will say I have always found that when you layer your business challenge once, they come back with their pieces. But I do think there's something about how you manage partners that becomes so critical to the work you get.
Absolutely. And by the way, there's room for everybody, right? If you think about the mix that we're going after, there's literally room for it. Like one agency is not going to be able to knock it all out of the park. There's room for everybody. And when I see agencies at their best is when they're building off of each other, right? When they're like, oh my gosh, you're going to do this shoot. Okay, I can use this. I can use this in my organic. I can use this here. Let's get the shot list together. Oh, you're going to do this for earned media? Oh, grab this because I could pull it over here. When they're working together and humming together, the work is just so much stronger.
I have so much respect for what both of you just said. So after spending 20 years of my career as a go-to-market commercial sales leader that had run sales teams, going into those meetings, I would always tell folks on my team, whether they were CS, sales, ops, strategy planning, marketing, hey, these are our partners. Like, let's work collaboratively. Don't look at this as a knife fight. Like, we're helping our brands. Like, this is a cohesion. This is how to help them get ahead. Don't be guarded. Don't think about this as like, ooh, how do we might lose out on a $10,000 or $20,000, $100,000. Think about the long game. And so the fact that you both just said this, and I hope I know that so many other sales leaders and sellers listen to this and watch this pod. When you hear from two top level marketers in our industry saying this, listen, please. So thank you, Lisa. Thank you, Josh,
of course. And like what we say at Bear now is everybody who touches the business is a brand builder, right? My medical team is going to be a brand builder. How are they going to help me get to the best claims possible? My sales team, they're a brand builder. They're the last mile, right? So if you can reframe that, like literally everybody who is in this room is a brand builder, it changes the frame and almost the responsibility of like, of course I have to get on this bus. Like I own this brand equally and I have a piece of how I can contribute. So we've been just trying to build that muscle a bit more in the organization. You're starting to see it really change how people think their role is in building the business.
Amazing. Lisa, we're going to pivot a little bit for the next couple of minutes. We know you got to jump for another meeting, but when was the first time that you believed that marketing worked, and how did you just get into this crazy world of marketing and advertising?
When did I knew it worked? Probably like growing up, just there were brands that you could remember.
Flintstones vitamins, like
Flintstones vitamins, caboodles. Like I had to have a trapper keeper, right? Like brands have always mattered, and not as a status symbol per se, but as a level of things that I know what to call it by name. I know how it makes me feel. And then I actually don't think I understood what marketing was, even when I went to business school. So my gosh, I sound stupid, but like until I got into an organization and saw how it worked, I was like, oh, I want to do that. Like, right. I think I'm going to be really good at it. Right. Like I really want to do that. And so it was, once you get in and you get a taste for it. And then I have to, if I think about it now, I'm flexing my marketing muscle for sure. But as a general manager, which I love, I'm also operating a business. And that brings a lot more into the fray than, just the marketing elements, which again, I absolutely love. But thinking about supply chain and thinking about cost of goods and profit and all those other things that may not sound as sexy, but to me get me pretty energized as well. So that's probably the progression of my career. But I still have a tight grip on all the marketing elements because I just adore it.
By the way, I have shifted from saying I sound stupid to I sound authentic. And I find that plays better. So if you want to use that, you could use that.
I'm very humble
in
how I show up. Yes.
yes. Me, yeah. So I think that's why we get where we get along. By the way, I think this is also a bridge to an interesting story. And then we'll throw a personal question at you. Even though I feel like we've learned a lot. So you also are in a category where you've got a lot of like these new entrants to the marketplace. I remember we used to call them ankle biters. I don't know what we call them nowadays. My question for you, but let me say something else behind it is like how, like your comment about brands mattering, like that means a ton, because I think about these other companies that came up behind, like trying to get to One A Day, trying to get to some of the other brands. And I think that where you and your products have been able to win is that, no, the brand still matters. And so I'd love to hear you just like talk a little bit about that, but also I will share how like there was and I only know this because you told me the story about a yacht and trying to pitch the Kelsey brothers on Flintstones because they had talked about it. And I think but I think that drives home the fact that like they remember this, like they like Flintstones was a brand. So the brand mattered, even though I know how the story ends. So I'll let you loose.
Yeah. Well, you just made me sound way cooler than I am. But first of all, I think, yes, we used to call them ankle biters. That is like a term that is just no longer, they're legitimate, here to play. The vitamin category is no joke, right?
No joke.
You come in any day of the week with your brands. You can find somebody who loves you on TikTok for the minute. And that is the reality to which an 80-year-old brand named One A Day needs to play in. And this is where, if I talk about, I said I had some missteps. One of the missteps was to forget who we were, and to try to be who they are. And we did that for a little bit. And what I'm so proud of what we've done as a team is we've gone back to the core of what this brand is, right? One A Day has been around for 80 years, serving nutritional support for a very mass accessible men, women under 50. That's who we are. And people like that. And so taking that back and just being incredibly proud about the equity of this brand, you're going to see a lot of cool things. Won't say too much, but a lot of cool things coming from One A Day, call it in the next 6 to 9 months, to really just reclaim the equity that we have and that consumers love about us. But we didn't shout it. We didn't shout it for a while consistently. So, and those other brands will continue to be there. So how else do we have to increase our relevance is we got to show up in different places. And that doesn't always come easy when you work in a big company, right? That may not have all that nimbleness or all the ways to get to consumers, out of home, at the festivals, whatever that looks like. But that's the charge that we have. Alexis, again, mentioned, like she's helping us get into different places. We are super, aggressive with our growth trajectory on Amazon, looking at TikTok Shop, dialing up some DTC capabilities. So also building out where we show up, to consumers, but got really sharp on how we show up.
That's amazing. A shout out to Josh Pianko for also introducing us to Alexis. But, so thank you, Josh. Additionally, as you guys were talking about the Kelsey brothers, if you're looking for people to help you unbox your patio furniture, they would be a better option than me. I just want to call that out ahead of time. So let's pivot to the last question, Josh, about one of your favorites that you ask people on the personal side. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I was like, I have a few of these, but yeah, like for me, it's like if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
Oh, what would I be doing? So like 7-year-old me would be an actress. I know that probably sounds surprising. 30-year-old me would have loved to have opened a bridal store. I think I get really caught up. It's like, who's not happy when they're trying on a wedding dress, right? Just to bring that joy to families and serve champagne, utter delight. XX age of me now, I'm getting the golf bug. So I think it'd be on the golf course, spending time with a pro, giving me lessons so I could really get better.
I like all of those things. We've never had anybody answer by year, but that's actually pretty interesting because you're right. Like I'm sure I could chunk it up to what I might have been differently from 7 to XX age that I am now too.
I think your X's are higher than mine, but
they 1,000% are. Yes.
I appreciated how you did it by year or genre. One of our guests, Alex Birchmeyer at Conagra, I still can't get over his answer was,
Oh my God, I listened. He wanted to be a substitute bus driver.
Oh, right. That's right. The bus
I
driver.
love that. Thank you for listening.
Not even a bus driver, like straight up sub. Like, bring me in on Thursdays when Johnny can't make it. Yeah, it was great. It was great.
Amazing. With that, Lisa, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so much fun. A lot of good laughs. I will be over later this afternoon or tomorrow morning on Sunday to go unbox your patio furniture.
Margarita Saturday, patio making, golf in a bit. It's
Might all in hand. So
Might all always in hand. You want me to be a kind soul? You want me to relieve my symptoms? Yes.
I'll take my one a day and my Flintstones. So
I love it. Thanks for having me, guys. This was great.